The last pillar, of course, is sun protection. And boy, we've got so many great sunscreens out there. So go ahead and dish, ladies. What are some of the things that you look for and what are your favorites? You know, do you like sticks for kids? Do you prefer creamy ones? What do you feel about sprays? I'll let you start, Latanya, on how do you pick these products for kids?
Absolutely. First thing, I need to get them to use them. And that's what most of the parents ask me,
Good
to get
luck.
them
That
to
is tough.
actually use it. Yes.
So
And I
tough.
have to speak to skin of color. There's still that perpetual
Yes.
myth. Well, if I have darker pigmentation in my skin, I may not even need a sunscreen. Yet we know that's a population that's prone to these acne marks at the end, the hyperpigmentation, the stubborn spots that they really want to clear. And so that's a nice introduction to say, hey, if you have acne, you may be at risk for dark marks after. So let's get a sunscreen on board, one that you're going to love to put on. And of course, with skin and color, you want to be able to massage it or rub it to the point that you have this invisibility, right? This shield that weighs in nicely without a cast. And so, I think Neutrogena has beautiful ones to offer where you have this invisibility at the end as far as no pigment cast. And then they get that protection, but sometimes it's that introduction of why they're using sunscreen, not necessarily to fight skin cancer, which of course it does, and we need it to, but in the young population, they're more prone to what's real for them. And I think it's a dyspigmentation or is a way to go as opposed to this is preventing skin cancers later down the road.
Yeah, so true. And you make such a great point about skin of color. Um, I know one of the sunscreens that I think really works well in this group is Neutrogena Ultra Sheer Mineral Face Liquid Sunscreen SPF 70. This is a relatively new one. And I
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to look at this and to actually talk about it on another podcast. And what's interesting is it gives you greater UVA protection. So that is important for our patients that are prone to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, like our skin of color patients. This is a mineral sunscreen, as I said. And I think we see that movement away from chemical sunscreens towards mineral sunscreens in all groups, but a lot in kids. And the other nice thing about it was when they looked at it in patients with skin of color, it had 30% less of that sort of whitened cast that we see that's so uncosmetically acceptable, not cosmetically acceptable in our darker skin patients. So I think that this is a good sunscreen, probably for all groups, but certainly for patients that have the darker skin tones, and also have that being prone to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. UVA protection is a real bugaboo, as we all know. Getting
Yeah.
adequate protection is super important.
And I love that you introduced the concept of a sunscreen that is mineral based for the kids, because
Yeah.
usually that's my go to. I don't even get into the blends or the chemical based ones for the kids. I know that's going to be tolerated. Most of my kids may have two conditions going on. They're trying to outgrow their eczema, but they still have very sensitive eczema prone skin
Mm-hmm.
while they're going through puberty and maturation. And now acne is a secondary thing. So still always being mindful about how sensitive pediatric skin is. I'm always needing a good mineral based sunscreen.
Yeah. Do you tend to lean towards mineral as well, Katie?
Yeah, I would say definitely in the younger kid population, as we talk about just for that sensitive or eczema prone skin, I do find it helpful. I would say for my teen or older patient who maybe darker skin phototype and just hasn't found the right, I'm open to what works for them. And as we say, the best sunscreen is the one you'll actually use. And so I really
Right.
encourage that kid or family, whoever it is in front of me, to find one that they will use. And like there was a time we talked about sticks when my kids were young, and it was like the fighting with the lotion. And I was like, I got my stick sunscreen. And I'm like, you're like, I got it on at least for this moment. And like, that's a win.
Yeah,
Right.
so
And
true. They're
so
such a moving target, right? You
right,
think you
you
can
gotta
kind
do what you gotta do. I'm like, so I
so
think
true.
really what you can get on is important. And then I think,
Yeah.
I try to aim for that at least SPF 30 or higher, broad spectrum as we talked about. And then the other key point, especially with, kids and teens in the summer, is if they're swimming a lot, look for something water resistant and like remind them about reapplying, or try to find something that, that they're at least knowledgeable that if they're out swimming all day, that they may be not as protected after the end of that course
Yeah.
of swimming in the day.